As kind of a read of the room, how many people already use ArcGIS Open Data? Oh, great. Okay, cool. A lot. How many people are on the older version of the site and are looking to move to the new one? Okay, and how many people have already moved over? Okay, cool. So we are going to, oh, hello, my name is Courtney Claessens. I'm a product engineer on the ArcGIS Open Data /Hub team based out of the Dev Center in DC.
What she said, my name is Graham, not Courtney, but all that other stuff is true.
Yeah. So today, a rough overview. We're going to do a quick overview of open data, but most of people in here already use it, so we'll kind of breeze by that and give a little bit of an update on what it is new and the new types of things that we're seeing people use it for, pages and stuff like that. What's new is how we're handling administrative access. If you've been in there lately, you might have seen a team tab, so we're going to go over that and how to customize who has access to edit your sites and to view your sites. And then customizing your site, the UI of it is going to be the bulk of this presentation. We've made a site and we're going to go through it. It's a public site and then you can go home with it at the end of the day and reference it when you're going through your site customization yourself. And then beyond just your site, you are going to be talking about customizing your data. So adding in any kind of additional download formats, metadata, things like that. Touch on that briefly. And then we're going to wrap up. We actually have one more point in here. We're going to talk a little bit about initiatives. If you've heard that mumbling around, we'll touch on that and what that means and some new practices that are getting developed. Great. So part of ArcGIS Open Data is part of the ArcGIS platform. Quick primer for anybody that doesn't know, it's a capability of ArcGIS Online. It's included with all of ArcGIS Online subscriptions, and it attaches down to your content, whether it is stored in ArcGIS for Server, stored in ArcGIS Online, or if you have it on an external API, we can bring that in through an open source ETL engine that we call Coop. And then you can access all of this onto your open data site. So we're taking advantage of workflows that we already know with our data management. We keep the data where it is. We don't break the link between the downloads and the data set. So previously, if we're looking at an FTP site, we take our data set, we do the extract, transform, load ourselves so that we put it up into a CSV file, we put it up in a shapefile, what have you. And then when people go to download that, they're downloading these static files on the web. But with ArcGIS Open Data, we connect it back to the source service, and we do that automatic ETL. So whenever you update your data set through your regular workflows, people are getting the updated data set on the web, and you don't have to re-upload each data set in all of those different formats to make sure that your users are getting the most updated data. So for the current state, it's a solution for both operational tables and spatial data, spatial and non-spatial data. Almost 8,000 organizations around the world are using it. Over 70,000 data sets have been shared. Over 20 million downloads since launch. Lots of numbers, but it goes to show that we're seeing good adoption, and a lot of people are using this, and a lot of people are turning to this as their complete solution. And we provide custom sites that you control, and this is why we're here today to learn more about this. We host the sites ourselves, so you don't have to worry about spinning that up or anything like that. You have full control over the layout of the site. You have unlimited bandwidth and API usage. We don't do any rate limiting or anything like that for people that come in and want to download your data or access. Every data has the GeoService API, and we don't do any limiting on that. And then the no restriction on the number of data sets that you have. We do the auto ETL. And there's a lot of different applications on the ArcGIS platform to provide context to the data, story maps, web applications, web maps themselves. And these are all really, really important to kind of create context around this data and to tell a story about the data that points on a map and cells in a table don't tell themselves. For a lot of people, it's just points on a map and cells in a table. Are there any questions on this? Great. So looking for kind of going beyond data and looking at a civic engagement platform and seeing some trends that we've been looking at recently. On the left-hand side is a City of Raleigh's site. This is not an ArcGIS site. This is just their Gov site. On the right-hand side, we have their ArcGIS Online organization. How many people here use an online org? A bunch. Cool. So a lot of people are coming to the site on the left and they're looking for information that in a lot of cases, all of the applications and the data and the services that are in your online org, they can answer these questions. But people aren't really coming to your online org. They might not know it exists. They don't have a login, what have you. So what we want to do is create bridges between these two places. So these are 3 examples of Raleigh sites. These are pages used using ArcGIS Open Data, and we can see that they have consistent branding across the top, and they have a whole bunch of really, really rich, great information in them. It all has a narrative, it has common themes, we understand what we're looking at when we come to these sites. And it's just kind of providing a window into all of the great information in the data and the services and all the work that you've done in your online organization. So again, like your data has a story. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can go about doing this, but these are the 3 examples that we were looking at from Raleigh. If you add the custom header, you get the Raleigh sites. But 3 different ways to talk about things that is in their online org. So they have one specific site for transportation and transit, one specific site for their overall strategic plan, and one specific site for their safe, vibrant, and healthy organization. And these are all sites that are used, they're created using the kind of the out-of-the-box configuration. So we're not going to go crazy, crazy deep into customization for this. We're going to look at some really good examples of how different customers have used just the out-of-the-box configuration to make sites that look like this. So once we launch into it, this is kind of what it looks like for those that, well, we're going to dive into it in the demo, but as just a brief general overview, we have the layout builder, and this has a whole bunch of different cards that we can use to organize content on our site. And within that, we can customize those cards. We can set themes, and then on the top right here, you have your dataset page where people can come in and look at the attributes, generate some charts, generate map visualizations, what have you. All right, so example sites. So this is the County of Summit GIS, and I really, really like this site. Sorry, did you want to talk about this?
No.
Okay. We launched Pages, which is the ability for each site to have multiple subpages within it. So we're kind of creating like a mini content management system. You don't just have one homepage for your site. You can have multiple subpages. And we launched that and found County of Summit GIS, and they implemented it days after. So this is out of the box configuration. They just have some rows. They have some cards on top of the rows. But we can see, and we're just going down here, they have their different categories. These are their custom icons that they've created. On the homepage, they have a link to download imagery from a zip file that they have hosted somewhere else. So I just downloaded all of their ortho photos. And then they have different applications. But at the top, they have a link to all of the different pages that they have. So they have a page for their fiscal office GIS data, environmental data, what have you. We click on one of these. And we're going to show you a way to link your pages so that it doesn't do a full page refresh. But then they have all these different pages. We could see the URL is the same. And then it's appended with pages, Summit GIS, environmental data. So you're diving into the different types of data categories that they have, reading more about it, and they're giving their users a really great way to be introduced to this data and to kind of read more about what's there without having to dive directly into the search catalog or anything like that. So it gives you like a really good overview as to what's there. So they just did this for their different data pages, but we're going to talk about initiatives later on, and you could have this for a specific target. You can make pages for hackathons or other events that you're doing, or the sky's the limit, really. If you don't even want to have data in your site, you can make a site that's just kind of showcasing all of the web maps and the applications that you have on your page. No one really has to go beyond this if you aren't doing that for your purpose. And just another example, I like this one because it's my hometown, and they did also some good amount of customization without going very deep. I know the guy that does this, he has like a little bit of chops, but by no means that they don't have a full-time designer or developer on their data team. You can come in here, and then again, they introduce more ways for you to go in and use the data. Okay, customizing access.
Yeah, so recently, if you guys went through an upgrade, if you're on 2.0 sites, we moved all of the sites into ArcGIS Online as items. If you were the admin and you logged in, you would see a message that told you this was happening. The reason we wanted to do this is it lets us control more granularly who can edit open data sites. Because you can kind of get the feeling that we're building web pages that are live and in some cases hosted on your city or county or government's domain. So you might want to restrict access, and that was a feature we were missing. Kind of open data was on or it's off. So now we have the ability to invite people into the team to edit just the open data sites, as opposed to kind of it being on for everybody. And this is now done in the administrative interface in open data. So you go to the team tab as an admin, you can add other people into the team. And behind the scenes, all this is doing is adding them to a collaboration group that's in ArcGIS Online. And this is the same group that all of the sites and all of the pages that Courtney just showed are shared to. So take advantage of this. If you have kind of a small set of people who know open data, probably this group, and you don't want somebody to stumble onto opendata.arcgis.com and mess with it, someone like a colleague, because they could be public sites, and you want them to you want to govern it in some way. That's what this feature was for.
Mm-hmm. So to kind of show you where that's going, we have this open data collaboration group. People here have seen this group and kind of wondered what it was doing in their org because they didn't create it. We created it for you. And it houses, as Graham said, it houses all of the sites, open data sites that you have. And all the people on your team tab are members of this group. So we ask that you don't delete or modify the group, as it says there in capital letters. And then you can do all of your management still within the open data administrative app. So I just want to tell you that this is here, but you don't need to touch it. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to do anything with it. You get a message that says, if you delete it and you log in to Open Data Admin, you're going to get this big message that says this group is missing and you need to contact support. And
yeah, it's
then,
kind of painful because I want to get on the phone with you and reshare a bunch of items to a new group. We're going to have to edit an ID somewhere. It's a really exciting process, but I can tell you about it later over a beer as opposed to you experiencing it live.
It's not the end of the world, but it's almost there. Yeah, I know. But you can just leave it. It's fine.
We had people do it on the first day. We're like,
and we know that people don't read. Like, there are studies out there. There's like, you can put anything you want in an error message and people just aren't going to read it, and it's true. Anyway, we're asking online to put delete protection on groups.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, customizing your site.
So we decided, rather than you have to take a bunch of notes about all the tips that we're going to show you today, because a lot of it is code, we've made an open data site that is all of the tips and presentation techniques. So this is a great example of an open data site that actually isn't hosting data, it's doing another purpose. If you have other application ideas, some people do like about city pages and things like that, but that's what this site really is all about.
This is an edit mode.
This is an edit mode, good, sweet. And the presenter one is, I'm just gonna open it.
And we'll have, we'll have a resources page at the end with all the links and the URLs and stuff like that.
Okay, so.
Okay. Another thing to touch on about images, you can't host them in your online organization because when you go to view it, we're accessing it in Amazon with a token, and that token's going to expire. So that link that you're getting is only going to work for a certain amount of time. I've tried to do that, didn't work. Okay, so for categories, a category card this was a common theme that we saw looking back at a lot of different sites that were being designed on the old framework. A lot of people were putting in images and then like an image of a bus for transportation and then linking that to a search query that was going towards transportation. So we want to make this easier right out of the box. And to give you an example, this is a category card. We're in the edit mode of the category card. You can change the link text, which we have SVG and look and find, and then you can set it towards a tag query or a group. So the tag query would be doing what we were doing on the old sites, where you just say, put in transportation, and that's going to create the search URL with transportation so that when someone is coming to your site and clicking on this Pikachu, they're going to get the transportation query. Alternatively, you can use a group. So we have 2 groups added onto here, and you can select whatever group that you have added to be linked to that specific item. So there's it depends on how you structure your data and how you manage it, but there's different ways to organize that. And then for the icons, you can choose from the library that we have, or you can provide a URL for your own, and we've noticed that a lot of people are opting to provide their own. So when you're providing your own, we recommend that you use an SVG. We can see our sad blurry Pikachu on the left-hand side. He's not an SVG. These types of images don't scale well. If you zoom in, they get really blurry. SVGs are much better at doing that, so we recommend using one of those. And for looking for icons, some organizations and governments have their kind of set stack of icons that they use pretty frequently. Others don't have designers on hand. They don't have their set icons. They're going to find them elsewhere. So a couple different places to look for these is Icon Monster, Icons 8, and Noun Project. These are all places that have tons of icons from designers and illustrators out there putting them up on the web that you can access for free, but note that a lot of them might require attribution, depends on what the license is. When you're on these sites and you're looking for icons, it'll tell you if you need to attribute or not. Your footer is a great place to put this attribution. And these are all hyperlinked in the site, so you can access it.
Yeah, so next up, the text card.
So the Dataset Card is an out-of-the-box way to showcase your highlighted datasets, any datasets that you want to feature on your homepage. It's called a Dataset Card, but it also can highlight web maps or web applications or documents or whatever, all the other things that we support that you have on your dataset, or sorry, on your data site. So launching into a Dataset Card, we have one already in here, but it's going to ask you to find a dataset, and this is going to list all of the datasets and other documents, web applications that you have on your site. It's going to give you a little bit of more information on them. You go select. And then this is pulling in the details from ArcGIS Online, the image URL, the title, and the description. You can change all of these, and it's just going to change on this site. It's not writing anything back to ArcGIS Online. So this is a place where you can edit that and provide information to your users. So if you're adding a single one, if you've added one to a row, you might have noticed that it's like really, really wide and it doesn't look very good. And this trick is for anything else on your site if you just want to make things in different positions. You can add a blank text card, and this will make the dataset, in this case, the dataset card, just be in the middle instead of being the width of the entire row. So you put this in here, and you just do it like that, and then it's just like a blank empty thing. And then you can save your site, and you view it, and it's like nothing's there at all. And then for custom cards, these are done in text cards with HTML, and there's some examples here. I'm not going to dive too much into them, but all the code is here if you want to kind of take one of these examples and use it for your own. So on the left-hand side, we have, again, these are all like individual text cards. We have one for crime where you can launch the app or view details. In the middle, we have an image with a little overlay on the bottom. And then on the right-hand side is an image up top and then text on the bottom. The whole thing is clickable. You can launch into them. So for these, I have these as 3 separate ones just to show 3 different options. But you would want to have one text card for your entire row And then you'd have multiple cards within that one text card. So you don't want one text card for one card. You want one text card for all of them. And then so here we have the code that would go into each of them. And on the left-hand side, this one is kind of taking the best practices where it's putting the style within the divs, within the classes, and just targeting that specific one. The other two has the style outside in its own style classes. So this is going to affect the entire site. And I have this actually as an image, not the code, because it was messing up my other one. So when you're going through this, if you're going to take these, just know that it is going to affect the style on your entire site. And of course, you can go in here and you can change the different colors. You can do whatever you would like to do. Any questions on those? Okay. So for charting and web maps, we do not currently have a web map card. We have an iframe card that we can use to pull in web maps onto your site. So this is a simple iframe, and we have a link to the web map. You can set your iframe height, you hit apply. So how to do this, I'm going to go to my content. And this is a little tricky, but one of our things that we're working on next is a web map card, so you can just do this like much more easily. But we'll come into, say, public schools. And we'll open it in the map viewer. And then we want to share this out, and I have to save it before I share it. All right, so first we have to share it to everyone, make it public, and then we're going to be able to embed it in a website. And now we're getting a whole bunch of different options to say whether we want to add zoom control, add a home button, what have you. This is really up to you and depends on your map and depends on how much space you're giving it on your homepage. If you're only putting in a small map, maybe you don't want to put in a whole bunch of other information on the map, because we can see in the little inset here that each of these things do take up space, real estate on the map. So the only thing that we suggest that you definitely check is disable scroll zoom. If you've ever been on a site and you're scrolling down and then all of a sudden your cursor gets stuck in a map and then you're like in Antarctica and you can't get back, this is going to make sure that that doesn't happen, that people are just going to be able to keep on scrolling and have to actually activate the map to be able to interact with it. And depending on your map, again, if you want to include a legend or not, it's up to your map. All right, so then we copy this HTML. And this, what it's doing, is it's giving us the entire iframe. Like that. But our iframe card only takes in the link. We don't want the style card is going to mess it, or we don't want the style tags is going to mess it all up. So what we have here is the SRC link, and that's the only thing that we want. So we go and we copy this. And we can see that all of those things that we were selecting is just like adding a query onto the URL, zoom true, scale false, what have you. So we've copied that. Go done. And then in our iframe, we just paste it in here. And it's going to load up here. If your web map is using a service that is only accessible over HTTP, we're going to get a warning saying that your iframe is using HTTP and you can't render it in preview mode because our preview mode is over HTTPS. So this shouldn't be terribly alarming. Well, the fact that you're using HTTP maybe, but this itself is fine. And you can save it and then view it in a new site, and it's going to just load as you would expect. Obviously, we definitely recommend that you do use HTTPS, and because as we go forward and you load your site over HTTPS, if you have HTTP content, it's not going to show up. Users are going to think your site is broken, la la la. All right, so we'll apply that back, and there you go. And I have all those instructions here with examples for you to review later on. Question? Yes?
So you're saying that this is going to change
So we're going to launch a web map card, and this isn't coming tomorrow, so if you want to do this, I recommend going this route. But the web map card will essentially be like the dataset picker. It would be like find a web map, and you would go and you'd select your web map, and then it'll pull it in. So you don't have to go and you don't have to do all that.
When is that coming?
I don't have an exact timeline, like in the next few months.
Yeah, a lot of what we're talking about today is write content for product feedback and stuff that we want to make easier. So like banner options and cards for apps and more style controls and all that stuff. So don't look at this as like this is the way it's always going to be. Hopefully we make it easier, but we want to give you the tools now that'll hopefully help you make great sites, and then in the future those next people will get to reap the benefits from our hard labor.
And we definitely want your feedback in general for anything that like we didn't touch on or anything that you think should be easier, anything that you really want to do, add custom fonts. Definitely want to know all that. Graham's going to go over charts.
So yeah.
Okay, so quickly going over customizing your data. Adding structured metadata is a great way to provide people with more information about the data. If you've gone on your open data site and you've seen the metadata link down here, if you don't add structured metadata, that goes to the ArcGIS online item, so you get the details, you get the title, all of that online page. If you do add structured metadata, you get the actual XML. So how you do that, we want to add the structured metadata to the online item. So we have our public schools item. On the right-hand side here, we'll have all the list of options and we'll have metadata. And we want to edit the metadata. And the box is taking a while to pop up, but it's going to be like a whole bunch of different tabs. And you don't need to go in through this and manually edit every single thing. It's a lot of stuff in here. You can just open up a metadata that you have saved locally. And we're working on scripts that is going to automatically do this because you have your metadata in SDE, you have it elsewhere. You don't want to save that locally and then upload it. Working on those to make that a little bit easier for you. And then this XML, again, will open from the dataset page, and it'll also be included in shapefile downloads so that when people download the data, all of that great information comes with it. And then for adding additional download types, these are the download types that we go over. We didn't show the Open Data UI or anything like that, but you get automatic downloads for spreadsheet, KML, and shapefile. And that you can do for the whole data set or for the filtered data set. For file geodatabase, there's two ways that we can get file geodatabase. This is not an automatic thing that everybody gets. If you have a service that's hosted in ArcGIS Online, you can enable the export data capability on that online item, and we'll automatically create this for you. If you have data that's hosted on your on-premise server, we're coming back to our lovely metadata editor, and we want to add in a custom download distribution. We have documentation on this and everything like that. So we added another resource. We have our URL. So you have to host this file geodatabase somewhere else. And this is a perk of having your data sets hosted in online so that you don't have to go through this, because if you host it somewhere else, again, you're disconnecting it from your source data. And when you update your source data, you have to update the data that you have hosted wherever. But you put in your link here, you give it the name, and this is what's going to show up on the dataset page, and then you do the function as download. So I'm using this as, for example, for file geodatabase, but you can put anything here. If you have white papers that you want to add in, any like bits of code, other types of files, CAD, what have you, this is a great way to give your users more options. And then we'll see, it says file geodatabase. All right, quickly customizing your data, going into connected content. If you have a site that has a data set for public schools and you've added a web map that uses that data set, the web map's going to show up on the data set page under connected content. So right now, this is pointing to education school attendance zones, and this is a web map that uses this data set. This is a great way to showcase the web maps that you're using, offer alternative ways to view the data, more context, what have you. Right now, this only supports web maps as connected content, but we're going to be working on introducing web mapping applications down here, and then finally the ability for you to upload your own content to the data set. So you want to expand the reach in the context of your data. Okay.
Yes. What's next?
What's next? Customization-wise, expanding out the card options that we have. I talked about the web map card that we're going to be adding in. We're going to also add we didn't actually go over the statistic card in this session, but you can look at that yourself. It basically will provide a statistic that's pulled from a query of your feature service and show there have been 32 assaults in the past 30 days on your homepage. So if you're doing an initiative like you want to get crime down, that's a great way to showcase that. Right now we only have a basic part of that. We're going to add in an advanced card or advanced version of that card to do, like we saw in the chart card, more advanced customization and styling that you can do for that. And then we're going to add a Twitter card. Twitter doesn't like you to iframe their stuff into other pages, so we're going to be adding in different types, or we're going to be adding in a Twitter card to have that feed in your site. If there are other types of cards that you would like to see, please let us know. You can talk to us after, we're at the booth, or on GeoNet later. And then adding in more options. We're going to be we're going to expand the theme that you have. So the theme right now is 4 different colors. We're going to be expanding it to include 2 different fonts. So your base font and your heading font. And these will reference a URL for a font library. So like any of the open Google fonts or other open fonts on the web, we can pull in, and that will propagate throughout your entire site. And then again, as I mentioned, more connected content types. Otherwise, we're going to be enabling full HTTPS support, as we were talking about for full OMB compliance. We're going to be adding secured open data. So right now, we don't have the ability to have private open data sites, and soon you will. First, we're going to be doing that just within ArcGIS Online, so not Portal. But you can log in, and then you can access the private items that you have in online on your open data site. And then by the end of the year, we want to have that with Portal. And then user-generated charts and visualizations, so giving the users of your site the ability to do some of the things that we were just looking at, like creating those charts, more advanced options to visualize data on the map. And then so if you want to learn more, there's a bunch of docs out there. This link to best practices slides is slides that I gave at the user conference last year. This is talking more about like server configuration and like prepping your data, ArcGIS Online, all that workflow that we didn't cover at all today. So if you're kind of in that boat, that's a great resource for you. Additional resources, we're active on GeoNet. We post, or Clara posts CSS tips there. We answer questions there. There's a really great community of people that help each other out and answer questions and share resources and things like that. So if you ever want to reach us and don't know how, that's where to go. The URL here that we looked at the customized site today, customizing OD Andrew, that's going to stay up. That's public. We'll probably add to that as we add in more customization things. So that'll be like a living document for you to go. If you're planning on coming to the deeply customized site session on Thursday, you can still come, but the only thing different is going to be the site that we use. We're going to be diving into more advanced styling things, other cards and things like that. If you don't want to come, you can just go to the site. Again, it's there for you. I'm still working on it, so maybe don't go till Thursday, but it'll have other things and code snippets that you can take and then use in your site. And then again, Graham has the initiative template that you can go and kind of use that as a different model.
Cool. Questions?
I'm just waiting for people to put their phones down. But yeah, questions? Sorry. Yes?
Are you going to go into, like, you were showing about, like, uploading a metadata XML and stuff like that. Are you going to go into that at all on Thursday?
I'm not on Thursday, but we can talk about it.
One back there.
So one of the things that the organization I work for, we're really interested in having is a single place where we can have our data
Yeah, we do support non-data data. So if you have PDFs that you have in ArcGIS Online, you can add them to an open data site and you can give them the extent and they'll come up in the search results. For videos, are those items as well? Or are you talking about like iframing in a YouTube video?
As a product.
Sure, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely like a place where you can do all that. Anything that's listed as a document in ArcGIS Online, you can pull into here. The only thing is that those PDFs and those videos aren't gonna have their own page within open data. So if you're going to an open data site and you're searching, and the search result is the PDF, and you click on the title, it's gonna open in a new window. So people can still find it and read about it, but we don't have a PDF viewer within the site. It'll open in a new window. Or, sorry, tab. Yep.
Are you guys going to allow us to customize the look and feel of the search result pages?
When we add in fonts, that'll do that. Like, what you want to hide stuff? You want
Well,
to?
like the little boxes of all the attributes. You know, if I have a feature
Oh,
class
yeah.
that has tons of attributes, I may not want to show a box.
Oh,
of
for
all
sure.
that, or I may want to show just a list instead of boxes, or you know, I want to change this or make the color that or something like that.
Yeah, going down the line, we want to introduce that not in like a UI styling way, but a data management way. So in the admin editor, you'd have your data set page and you would say, I want to only show these attributes on the page. And then so you can select which ones, or I only want these attributes to be able to generate charts or something like that. That's not coming anytime like in the direct near future. Stuff that we want to work on, and we can explore different ways to maybe put in ability to hide things before that, but most likely that'll come in the more like data administrative management side. Yes?
View of a feature layer or a feature service, you know, kind of emulate some of that?
We have to figure out how we're working with views. Yeah, so right now, we take everything from the original service as it's pushed up from your MXD. We are working how to work with views in online. Great, I know you've seen this slide a lot, but it really, really means a lot to us. If you do take the survey, helps us get better, helps the organizers decide what should be there next year. Thanks.
Thank you all.